Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Podnuts Pro. I am your host, Marvin B., coming at you live from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where it is not raining at the moment, but it has been raining for almost a week straight, and that is, I don't want to say it's unheard of this time of year, but it doesn't fit the normal cycle. We usually have our rains at about 4 o'clock p.m. till about 4:10 p.m., but that's not what's happening. We've had a couple of big storms come through. Of course, we had the first storm of the year, first named system off the coast. Wasn't really close enough to affect us, but for some reason we got strange weather. And speaking of strange weather, my guest today is also experiencing some weather, Dr. Dave Greenbaum in Kansas. Dave, how are you doing?
Good. Doing well here in Lawrence, Kansas, home of the Jayhawks.
Okay. No reference to the Super Bowl champions at all?
Well, that's more Brian Best thing, football, but no, yeah, I guess that's true. We are Kansas City Chiefs. We we're in Lawrence, so we think more about basketball than we do football, and that's across the state line. That's in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm on the Kansas side, but no, weather's been great up until today, and then all of a sudden, just the skies opened up, and as luck would have it, my point-to-point internet at my co-working space is kind of flaky whenever we have heavy rain. So, if you hear a loud thunder, or the power actually went out this morning, so fun times in Lawrence, Kansas.
So we will be adjusting on the fly, possibly, is what you're saying.
Yep, that's our business, isn't it? Always having to adjust that stuff as we go along.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right. So let me get started with the announcements and housekeeping. And first things first, I need to acknowledge it wasn't really a snafu, but last week when I announced the Florida Man versus the World, we talked about a story that I received from one of the listeners that I picked as the story of the week and put it on the Facebook. And I noticed a couple days later that it wasn't a real story. But I didn't say anything about it because how many people actually read the Florida Man stories anyway? Come to find out, somebody did notice it and actually called us out and said that while the story was funny, it was from a satirical website. So I did have to bestow some kudos to the gentleman for not only noticing, but saying it, because I really did want to see how long it would take for somebody to notice. And the person that submitted the story, I did eventually ask them, did you know that it was from a satirical site? And he said no. But either way, I think I'm going to do something. I think I might give a $5 Amazon gift card to the person that called us out just to say thank you. That lets me know that people are listening. So you do something nice, you might get a card. But anyway, had to get that out the way. Dave, you were smiling there?
Oh, I just find it funny simply because I can't tell the difference between what's news and what's satire. I kudos to this person for figuring that out, because I can't tell the difference between CNN, Fox News, and The Onion anymore.
Well, the sad part about it is there are so many Florida Man stories that are literally outrageous that you think that has to not be true, but most of them are. So it is kind of sad. Even today's stories that I was looking at, some of them are just a little, that just doesn't sound right. But you, my friend, as we talk about you and your history, why don't we start with the fact that you are a frequent visitor to the state of Florida? Are you not?
I went. My family moved down there. My parents semi-retired, and then my father passed away down there. So I would go yearly to visit his gravesite at Boynton Beach. My I moved my mom and my sister up here about 6 or 7 years ago, so I don't visit. I'm bad. I don't visit my father's grave as much as I should because it's fun down there. I enjoy it down there.
It's fun down here. So you come down here, visit the grave, and then head out to let's see, Boynton Beach. So you head down to Delray, Atlantic Avenue, maybe.
No, not that much. It's just more because I'm originally from New York. It's like little New York. So I've got my route of going to the delis. Is Ben still even in Boca?
I'm not sure. I don't visit the Boca area as much anymore. It's gotten a little stuffy for me.
It's like 20 minutes away from you.
True, it is. Yeah. Yeah, Boca's Boca's about 20 minutes. Boynton Beach is about 25, depending on where. And I've got, but I do know about the daily rain. The daily what?
That daily rain. That daily rain around 4 o'clock or so. It rains every single day down there.
Yes, that is true. That is true. All right. So when was the last time you were down here? If you don't come down that much.
Gosh, I was trying to think. It's probably been about 5 years or so.
All right.
I
was going to say, because if you were down here and didn't let me know, we might have some explaining to do.
It was before I met you.
Okay.
So, or maybe I had just met you and didn't know you that well. But yeah, I haven't been back since because then I'd have to run into you and that would be a major problem.
Can't have that. So now, speaking of when we met, so the first time we physically met, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was the 2016 Unconvention in Toronto.
Yep, absolutely. That was the first time I met you.
Okay.
That was a lot of fun. You got you and Mike and a few other people were just hanging out, and I was busy setting up stuff, and you were doing your podcast thing, and I was mostly talking with Corey about the food.
Yes, the food. You we're not really a food snob. You are a craft beer snob.
No, I'm a total snob. No, I'll own that. Food, drink, whatever. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a flexitarian. I'm a snobitarian. I'll admit it.
Okay. All right. Which is probably why we didn't.
Always scoping out. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's probably why we didn't hang out as much because I'm not really. If it's food, if it's cooked, for the most part, I'll eat it as long as I know what it is. If it's something where, if it takes longer to describe it than it does to eat it, time to move on.
That's a good one. I'm going to use that with friends. If it takes longer to describe it than it does to eat it, then it's not a good fit.
That is true. That is true. So, Dave, let's do this. So normally what I do for people that have not been on the show, even though you're known in the community, your writings are all over the internet, things like that. For the listeners that may not know you, let's talk a little bit about who you are, where you came from, how you got started, all that stuff. What's the history of Dr. Dave?
Well, I started this in 2003, and I am the person that a lot of the business owners hate because I hated my boss and I stole all of his clients and went out on my own. So I'm your greatest nightmare when it comes down to that. But I dotted my I's and crossed my T's and made sure it was all legal. I'd worked for a few other companies, and a lot of the clients wanted to contact me directly because my boss was a butthead. I would use another term for that, but I know we have to keep this at least PG-13. So I went ahead, and one day he wanted to cut my salary, and I said, that's not going to happen. And he said, you're fired. I said, okay, that's great. Collect unemployment and start my own business. So I'd planned it for a while because I knew business was going downhill. So I started that back in 2003, hit the ground running, and been working ever since.
Now, this was a company you helped grow. And did it start out as, was it just you, or is it like one other person that you grew, or do I have the right company?
A little bit. So what had happened was I'd gone to law school, realized, and I know you work with a lot of lawyers, and they can be a very difficult bunch. And I am just too nice of a guy to be a lawyer. So I did a year of law school, and they were starting this computer repair business. This was called Geeks on Wheels, and this was back in around 96 or so. And I went ahead and helped them start that business. They were actually a division of the newspaper, and the newspaper had a cable modem division. We were one of the first communities to get cable modems because we're in a university community. And they started realizing that the people were complaining that their cables modems weren't working because people didn't know how to work their computers. And this is right when Windows 95 was rolling in and stuff like that. And that was a big shift for a lot of people. So I helped start that company, grew it quite a bit, and then it actually merged into the cable company because the cable company was so bad. We would go ahead, and when it was the problem with the cable modem and not the computer, we would go ahead and build a cable company. And they were our largest client by far. So instead of fixing the customer service and technical issues at the cable company, they said, well, we'll just merge you guys together. So that way we don't have to worry about you billing us. I said, that's a dumb
Wow.
idea. Goodbye. Did a year of corporate IT work at H&R Block, which is down the street in Kansas City. And then didn't like that, worked for another company, and that was the company that I worked for where I stole all of his clients.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to jump back a bit because you did mention that you had a little bit of time in school to go into law.
Yeah.
So my question is, looking at you, knowing your history, it seems that computers was always there. How did law sneak its way in?
Because my mother said, Jewish mother says you either have to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Okay.
And faint at the sight of blood. So I also like, if you've been around me enough and seen me in the community, I also like arguing with people. So law is a good fit for that.
Yeah, that was something I thought. I said, that sounded like, the great debate would be something you would look forward to, being able to be in a courtroom, standing across from somebody, arguing facts. And I could see you, if it were like an arbitration.
Yeah.
Where you could be like, state your point, prove your facts, go. And then questioning them every step of the way.
Yeah, I could see that. The problem was student loan debt. Primarily, I looked at that, and if I wanted the freedom to do what I wanted, there was a lot of debt involved. And this was what had happened was I was planning on doing the law school route. Computers was always a hobby, and I was a pizza tech back in the day before we called them pizza techs or man in the van back in the early 90s as I was a high school student. So this was always my thing, and there weren't that many computers around. We still were using the dial-ups and the BBSs and stuff like that. So I worked for a summer, and I wanted to work a summer at the Kansas City Art Institute, just being one of their techs, and they offered me unsolicited the job of being the computer director there. I was like, okay, people aren't offering you these type of jobs when you're 2 years out of college. So I took that job and thought at some point I might go back to law school, and then that kind of career took off from there. So I'll always fall back on it.
So interesting that you mentioned the computer lab there, because I actually was a tutor in my college lab. My roommate was the gentleman who ran the lab. And that was still a time where I was, so I grew up more on the jock side, more on the student government side. So I wasn't supposed to be this computer person. But rooming with the guy, and he saw that, I ended up helping him a lot of time fix stuff. And he's like, well, you should come to the computer lab. So I know how I got roped into stuff. How did you get roped into the job? Did somebody see you do something, or were you always in there fixing stuff for them?
Oh, you mean in as far as doing computer stuff in college?
Yeah, in college.
Yeah. I was in the lab and I needed a student worker job to help pay some of my loans. And we did the computer lab. I worked in the School of Education in the computer lab, and I would fix problems. And the other thing is it also gave me access to the lab anytime I wanted. And at that point, again, we're old. The people didn't have computers in their lab or in their dorm rooms, so you had to go to a computer lab, and they were always busy, and you always had to worry about making sure someone had access to the printer, and especially if you printed personal stuff, you want to make sure that you retrieve that stuff as soon as possible. So it was nice to have access to the computer lab and a computer anytime I wanted, because the people that worked at the desk always had access to that stuff. The printer was right behind me. I could get that stuff really easily and say, yeah, my job's ahead of yours. You'll just wait around and stuff like that. So it was a little bit of a power trip back in college. And then, so I went ahead and did that for a couple years. And then when I took a year off between law school and undergrad, I helped run the computer labs at a local community college. So I had that skill and experience, so that at least helped me pay some of the bills to go ahead and not have as much of a student loan debt when I went into law school. And then I decided not to finish it anyway, so it was all moot.
All right. And what was the deciding factor that, you said student loans, but that couldn't have been the deciding factor to leave law school?
Well, there were a couple things. The old paper chase joke: look to the left of you, look to the right of you. Your first year of law school, one of you won't graduate.
Yeah.
I looked to the left, I looked to the right, and I didn't like those people. Lawyers are a unique bunch, and I did not fit in with them. I found out I really was too nice of a guy. At one point, one of my friends in my study group went ahead and had an appendicitis in the middle of an exam. And I was looking over to him like, you're not looking very good. And then I see him afterwards, and there's an ambulance there. And I gave him all of my notes from the exam, or my study notes, because every exam's different. So they were going to give him a different exam. And I said, I don't need these notes anymore. Use them, because he was in the hospital for 3 weeks before he could even take the exam. And I helped him study. And they put me up for an honor code violation. And they said the whole reason they did that was because they thought he would be the top scorer in the class, and they were all excited when he got sick, so that, everything's great on a curve in law school, so everyone would move up. And I thought, that's just a horrible thing. And the grand
what's that got to do with honor
10 years
code?
from now, nobody's going to care. What?
I said, what's that got to do with the honor code?
Well, I gave him my notes.
Well, I understand that part.
Yeah.
That part I understand, but the fact that they were more afraid that he would be the top student, and the fact that you were helping him maintain that status?
Well, because I might have told him what was on the exam.
Oh,
and they said, no, we just did that so that way you would be afraid of giving him your notes. And as you know me pretty well by now, I don't respond to that. If I'm going to do what I think is right, regardless of what other people say. So I did. They brought me up. It was dismissed. It was a bluff. But yeah, they said, no, it was a different exam. If it was the same exam, it would be a different thing. But no, the funny thing is I was the one who got the top score anyway in that class. So their whole protestations about that guy didn't make a difference.
Okay.
And I said the curve pretty
well. It's a story I did not expect. So, well, the defiance part, I guess I expected.
Who, me? No.
Oh.
I didn't know you were in student government. That was interesting. I was in student government too. What'd you do in student government?
Ran the whole damn thing.
Wow. So you were like president of student government?
So let's see. So in high school, let me go back. So I started being in student government in junior high. And I was class president I think, every other year. And I should have been class president my senior year, but the year that we campaigned, I actually was away at a congressional internship for, I don't know, 1 or 2 weeks. I actually had somebody else run my campaign that confused the heck out of everybody. So instead of voting for me, they voted for that person. So somebody else ended up winning. So that's what happened there. But I continued staying in student government through college as well. And I was elected president twice at my college.
Congratulations. That's pretty awesome. I did not know that about you. That's pretty cool. But why did you not pursue anything in politics?
So once I realized how fake you had to be, I couldn't do it.
So it's basically like my law school experience.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. So, one of the things that works well when you're students is, standing up for the right thing, regardless, having principles and that sort of thing. Once I started seeing in the real world, having principles didn't matter. Well, then I'm like, well, I can't do that. I can't be that way. I can't, turn around and, vehemently fight for something I didn't believe in.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So that was that. It was fun though.
We're both fighters.
Yep, we are. Now you're also a big writer. How did that start?
Really in high school, worked on the student newspaper in college, and I got my first real break writing for a Mac website, primarily because I wanted a free pass to Macworld and I wanted my press pass. Because when I worked at the Art Institute, I was in control of the budget, so I'm like, I need to travel somewhere. Let me go ahead and go to San Francisco to Macworld and hang out with a bunch of the Mac people. And then when I left the Art Institute, I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna have to pay $200 to go and all that. So I went ahead and started doing product reviews for a Mac website, and that really kind of took off the career, and I enjoyed it. I enjoy talking, I enjoy sharing my knowledge. So I'm also a critical person, so I like doing reviews. So I went ahead and did that, and that kind of elevated the career, where I went from there to something called the Apple Blog. And the Apple Blog was owned by GigaOM at that point, so I kind of went from there, and then eventually GigaOM took it a different direction, and then my big break was working for Lifehacker. I wrote for them for about a year, which was a division of Gawker, and if people know the story about Gawker, it was a very weird place to work. This was right around the time of Gamergate and the whole Hulk Hogan controversy. And it was a horrible, horrible place to work. So yeah, it was right around that time of the Hulk Hogan lawsuit, and it was absolutely crazy. So I took a break from that and started just writing for other publications, more in our industry. So for example, I'm a writer for Tech Nibble. So right. Again, I like sharing my knowledge and giving my opinion.
Now, when I was perusing on the www, when I was noticing your writings for Lifehacker, so a lot of them weren't technical.
Sometimes that was. So go ahead.
You broke up there.
I broke. Yeah, you broke up on me. So as far as the writing, they weren't. Some of them were technical. They actually specifically said they didn't want a technical person for that beat. I wrote about things like a lot of job stuff because I had done a lot of hiring and stuff like that. So I kind of had that beat, and I'm just a problem solver type person. So, and I always found that as part of my job today is really all we do all day for the most part, either solve problems or prevent problems. And that fit very well into Lifehacker with everything with life. My biggest one, the most popular one I wrote was, unfortunately, when I had to put my dog down. And there wasn't a real good unimpassioned guide of how to do that. So when my dog got sick, life hacker hat and really try to step away from the experience and say, okay, if I have to go through all this, I want to make sure that there's a guide out there so no one has to go through these pains and make this decision without a clear, frequently asked questions. So yeah, frequently asked questions of how to put your dog down. I've got that on Lifehacker.
I saw that and I was going to ask you about it, but you brought it up first, so that's good. You also wrote a very short one saying, keep some of your fat clothes.
Oh, I see. I wrote so much for them. I don't remember unless it was one of the top ones. But keep your fat clothes. Yeah, that's. I eventually did get rid of my fat clothes. You actually never saw me. Did I ever show you the picture of when I was really big?
No, I did not.
Oh, I used to be about 10, 11 years ago. I was about 270 pounds.
Okay.
So I was a big guy. I had been a big guy all my life. And when I turned 40, I said, screw this. I don't want to be a fat guy for the rest of my life. My father had his first heart attack when he was 42, and I didn't want to follow that same path, and I was on that path. So I lost a bunch of weight, and then eventually I started picking up about a year ago, started picking up running as a hobby, which has been a lot of fun. You see, you said you grew up as the jock. I was the nerd. So.
Yep. So I saw this picture of you.
Oh, God. Oh. You're just mean. I am so going to get you back for that the next time I see you. Wow.
Well, it was funny because I was poking around and, I knew. So somehow I knew that you were tied to Florida, but I didn't know the whole story. And when I was looking at stuff, I saw that you had posted about pictures you had not seen until you came back to Florida in 2012 or 13 or something like that. And I was like, what? I did not quite understand. So it was funny, but it was odd that how did you not see those pictures at all growing up?
My parents were kind of hoarders, so a lot of things just went in boxes.
Yeah.
So I remember that was my bar mitzvah picture. I remember that it was never hanging in the house. My mom had boxes of things that she said, at some point I'll go ahead and hang this. And when I eventually visited Florida and they were kind of caught up in the whole mortgage thing, they bought too much of a house that they could afford. And eventually I had to fly down there because it was about a month. They'd already been evicted and the sheriff was going to come and move them out. So I'm like, okay, I need to go through all these boxes and save the critical stuff. I'm like, oh, my bar mitzvah pictures. I remember posing for those, but I never actually seen them up. So yeah, I posted some of those. Yeah, that was, and as you can see, I was a fat kid.
Oh no, you weren't that big back then. So, all right, now so let's fast forward to the Dr. Dave time frame. So you started your company in 2003, you said, basically to piss off your boss and steal his customers. The question I was going to ask you, I just lost my train of thought. I was looking at another picture. So when you got the name Dr. That's all right. Here's where we were going. You're the name Dr. Dave. Even when you started calling yourself that, you would write out Dr. Dave, and then you'd have incorrectly Dr. Dr. period Dave. Was that because there was already a real Dr. Dave that you knew of?
No, it was primarily because I was told, again, the lawyer aspect of me, doctor is a title, and we don't want people to think I actually have a doctorate degree. And every once in a blue moon, maybe every couple of years, I'll pick up, good afternoon, this is Dr. Dave. And someone will start telling me their medical problems. And that's really way too, I have to say, whoa, hold on here. I'm a computer doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. Oh, okay. So if I text you pictures of this, you won't be able to tell me. Please, please do not text me pictures of that. Do not text me pictures of that. No, no.
Wow.
Are you sure? Maybe. No, no, no. So every once in a while we get that. So it's not. I don't have a doctorate. It is interesting because I am in a college town, and the professors oftentimes will put DOCTOR, DABE, because they're like, okay, you did not earn a doctorate degree. You do not get to be called doctor. I get to be called doctor because I'm a professor, and you will refer
Right.
to me as Dr. So-and-so. So get that.
Okay. Just wanted to ask how the name got started. So as you started your business and focused on what you were going to do and the clients you were going to serve, I know that one of your fundamental philosophies is the one-on-one relationship. So
Yeah.
okay. So was that like a guiding force into how you were going to, market to clients, get clients, stuff like that in terms of, because if I remember correctly, you don't go after big business type clients.
No, no. And that's really what it comes down to is having worked in corporate IT, doing that year of H&R block, not really getting to know people. I was just the IT person at the other end of the phone, usually the one you swore at and was not happy with because we didn't have the budget to do what you really need to do. Yes, you need a new computer. Yes, I can write that down, but you're not getting a new computer. They're not going to approve that. And then when I worked for this other company, we did primarily corporate work. And I would sit at a desk and people would just drop off their computers. I'd reformat that, drop off and reformat them. I would never get to meet people, and I'm a people person. So when I went out on my own, I focused exclusively on the residential clients because, again, you get to talk with them. They bake you cookies. They let you play with the dog. They show you the family pictures. I'm that touchy-feely kind of guy. I like that. I don't like sitting at a corporate desk and not getting to know my clients. So the most I'll take on is a client with 5 computers. If they have more than 5 computers, I'm referring them to someone else. Because again, then we're talking with a business and I'm not getting to know people. I like being part of their lives.
All right. That's good. Commendable. Also, you believe that Macs and PCs should be considered equal and should get equal support.
We have a non-discrimination policy here. We will support Mac, we will support PCs. We do not discriminate against either platform. Now, truth be told, there are a lot of PC people out there. There are very few Macintosh people. So it is a niche market. So it's a lot easier to find the Mac clients than the PC clients. And in particular, with the pandemic going on, all the Apple stores have been closed. So, there's not that many Mac people working, and you can't get your free support at the Apple store anymore. So, yes, you're going to have to pay for the support now.
All right. Well, that's been interesting. So, sounds like there's been an uptick for you.
There has. There's been an uptick in the amount of clients I have and clients we're talking to. There's been a slight downturn in business simply because when we do the remote support, like a lot of businesses, we don't have the same minimum. So a remote support is 15 minutes, whereas an office visit is a half an hour, an on-site visit is an hour. So we're solving some of these problems in 15 minutes, where if they came to the office, we could do other services to make it worth its while. So usually a lot of those quick questions that they would go to the Apple store and get for free, they're paying us to do remotely. So it has been good for business for sure. I hate to say that. I really do. But I ran those numbers for April, and April was one of our best months. So I'm not going to complain. There's been more expenses for sure. Like we're doing more contactless payments, so that means that my Square credit card processing fees have gone up. But still, I'll take it as the win column.
Well, okay. Well, here's the thing. Don't apologize for providing a service. It's not your fault that the pandemic is here. It's not your fault the Apple stores are closed, and they should be happy that you're able to help them.
Yeah, sure. It's like someone who's a mortician. They only get paid when people die, and I'm like, oh, I feel bad for that. But people die, and they need services, so we'll go with that.
A natural part of life. So the reason I wanted to ask you about the Macs is I don't deal with Macs myself. Most of my offices, they are tied to Microsoft. There's really not a choice. Their software is Microsoft, and you can't even introduce a Mac unless you're doing, remote work where somebody, might need to install, Windows Parallels, and then they can, remote in or do something like that. So the only Apple contact that I have is iPad, iPhone, but I've been trying to keep my eye on the Mac world because at some point it's going to happen. So I always like to pick the minds of the Mac people that I know. Not that you're just a Mac person, but that is a lot of, of what I see in you and a couple of other people. So, I know that technically there isn't a huge difference in just basic OS stuff, and that a lot of the things that they do are web-based, so it's not too big a difference. But do you see a huge difference in PC support as it relates to Mac support in terms of, what you do?
You broke up a little bit. I got a good amount of the question, but I think you were primarily asking, do I see much of a difference between the Mac support field and the PC support field? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about the internet connection problems. So there's different types of problems. Malware is much more of an issue in the PC world than the Mac world. The prevalence is similar that we're seeing, but the problem is the Macs generally don't have protection. But the bonus is the problems are fairly easy to resolve. Usually, if a Mac fails, we're not going to see weird operating system problems because most of the software doesn't have hooks into the operating system. So things like blue screens, stuff like that, the things that are just annoying that you have to track down on a PC, there's just less variables on a Mac. So I hate to say it, the Mac support is actually a whole lot easier than the PC support. Once you kind of get a hang of it, because there's a limited amount of stuff, and most of the time it's just a hardware issue. So we do a ton of replacing hard drives, which opening up those iMacs that we just have this whole big box of tools, and you have to, like, even opening up some of those iMacs, there's this adhesive that you have to buy, and it's a special adhesive because once you open it up, you just can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Apple does not like third parties going in and replacing stuff. So there's some market there. But yeah, for the most part, also, I think the client base is less technical on the Mac than the PC that I find. So the problems are a little bit easier to resolve. Probably the most popular problem we have on the Mac is I can't figure out my password situation, because they've got the computer password, then they've got the iCloud password, then they've got the Apple password, and they keep putting in the wrong thing. So we go ahead and we walk them through, okay, let's write down your password so you understand the difference, and we give them a little password book and stuff like that. So whereas the PC, good gosh, it could be absolutely anything, all the craziness. But with web-based stuff, you still have issues with that, and email. I mean, email, whether you're configuring Outlook for the Mac or configuring Outlook for the PC, it's just as frustrating and annoying sometimes.
All right. I do understand what you said about the hardware side of it. I did have to open up a all-in-one Mac many years ago, and I did that one time and said, no, not again. All right, did I lose you, Dave? No. I
heard you opened up a Mac one time, and it sounded like you did not have a good experience with it.
Well, like you said, it's a little different. There's a lot of, like you said, adhesives. You got to have special tools, and they are not easy to put back
Yeah.
together if you don't do it all the time. And I wasn't doing it all the time.
Yeah, but again, you have, because it is a smaller market, you can dominate that market a lot easier because there's so few people doing it. So once you do it, and I'll admit we broke things, and we went ahead and we had to pay for those repairs. Now, did we directly tell the client, "Hey, we were taking off your glass and we broke it"? No, you came in with working glass and you left with working glass, and we lost a little bit of money on that repair, and we learned our lesson. So,
All right.
I mean, if they asked, we tell them, but don't know.
Right. Okay. So you mentioned before that you've had a little bit of an uptick during COVID. Do you have any interesting COVID stories or any tips for other people on how to, work in this new normal going forward?
I think again, you broke up on me, but I think I got the gist of the question is kind of some of the changes or interesting stories with the whole COVID Rona thing. One thing that's been nice is, since I have a co-working space, we've been able to do completely contactless drop off. So there's a little plastic bin outside our building. People put the computer in there, and then we go up there and sanitize it, and we work on it, and they wait out in their car if they have any questions or anything like that. The other thing that I struggled with is, we have the client sign an authorization form, and up until recently it's been paper, because dealing with a lot of non-technical clients, they don't have smartphones, they can't figure out how to tick mark something like that. So eventually figured out an easy way of doing it, where they just get in Repair Shopper. When they get the confirmation, they click on the link, and we're done. And that saved us a lot of time, even at clients, because they would sign it and they'd have a physical piece of paper and they'd want to read the whole thing, and they'd say, "Okay, what is this saying?" I say, "Well, it basically says that you're authorizing the work and we're not liable for anything." Well, I don't know about now. It all happens beforehand, which is kind of nice. And then when all is said and done, we send them the bill through Square, so they pay it online. So we're things have been a lot faster now that we got that work done ahead of time, where they have the authorization and we don't have to worry as much about the payment issues. Rather than collecting the check, then they ask who to write the check out to. Do I spell out DOCTOR DAVE, or do I put doctor, or do you want to put Dave Greenbaum? What do you want us to put down? No, just pay the thing online. We're done. And they still a lot of times want to mail me a check, which again is fine. With the Rona, we want to be careful about bringing anything into the office, taking anything out. But I did have a few clients tell me they work in medical offices, and our procedures at my office exceed their office, which was kind of nice. We change gloves after every client. We really think about it going on site. We make sure, because I have to explain it when we schedule them. The client has to open the door for us. They have to direct us to a sink. We will wash our hands immediately going in. Then we put on the gloves. Then we have to reverse the process. Before we leave, you need to direct us to that sink. We will remove our gloves. We will go ahead and wash our hands, and then you must open the door for us. So that way we're not touching any of their surfaces without a glove hand.
Interesting. That's an interesting procedure. I carry the mask, and I carry gloves, and I carry my own hand sanitizer. So we do that. And of course, living in South Florida, we have total anarchy as to who follows the guidelines and who does not, but I do.
I think I lost a tiny little bit of there, but yeah, living in South Florida, I'm sure that's you've got quite an outbreak still down there, I believe, and people visiting all the time. Where I live in Lawrence, and in our county we've had 53 cases, and it maybe upticks one a week. No one in the hospital, so I'm not going to Kansas City. I'm staying here in Douglas County. It's nice and safe here.
So you've had 53 total cases?
Yep, 53 total cases reported in our county. But that's because we're primarily a college town, so the students never came back from spring break.
Okay, I get it.
So I don't know the total population, but not as many people going in and out of here. Kansas City is a whole different story. So I went to Costco one time in Kansas City. They were doing the procedures right, but other places I'm like, no. And things are opening up this week. Monday, the restaurants started opening up in both Lawrence, where I live, as well as the Kansas City metro area. So I'm kind of waiting for that uptick.
All right. So yeah, here in Broward County, it hasn't been bad as Palm Beach and Dade, even though we had 286. Well, let's go back. We had 145 new cases yesterday with 4 deaths. Both Miami and Palm Beach had 24 deaths each yesterday. Miami still reported 425 new cases, Palm Beach 269 new cases. So in the state of Florida, South Florida is still battling.
I won't be visiting you anytime soon, Marvin. I'm not going to get on a plane anytime soon.
If you get on a plane and come into here, they're going to check your temperature when you get off. They're still doing that.
They're checking them everywhere. I went to the gym yesterday. They opened up the gym yesterday, and yeah, you cannot. And the restaurants, they've got the contactless thermometers, and they will not let you in the place. And it worries me because some places I'm running to, and I'm like, uh-oh, I wonder what my temperature is when I walk in there, because you're hot and sweaty, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna shoot me with a contactless sensor. It's gonna show that I'm running a fever. It's like, no, look at me. I'm drenched in sweat. I'm warm. I don't have the Rona. Because once they turn you away, everyone's gonna be looking at you. Oh, he's got the Rona. He's got the Rona. No, I'm not running any place like that now. I will drive, and I was actually thinking I'll take some water and because that's the thing that I'm thinking. If you actually had and you wanted to go into someplace, wouldn't you just like the kids did when you were a kid, you take mom's thermometer and put it by the incandescent light bulb so that way you look sick, so that way you get to stay home from school. The reverse would probably work. You go ahead and take some ice and put it on your forehead, and you go in there. Someone's going to do that because they want to go where they want to go.
I'm here. Let me throw this up real quick. Kyle in the chat just announced that so his area, Middlesex County in Massachusetts, so 19,708 cases. That sounds about right.
I just read that. I'm putting on my mask.
So Miami-Dade County is at 16,000 total cases. Palm Beach at 4,000. Broward, where I'm at, is 6,500. So the number of cases, depending on where you are, does get up there. But Miami-Dade was hit hard. But Florida, at least Broward County, we reacted before the other 2 counties in terms of shutting stuff down. And it was funny because the day my wife came out of the hospital was the day that the toilet paper pandemic started, and we ran out of stuff. So that's how early things happened down here. So we were really trying to be good about sanitation and stuff, and we couldn't find gloves anywhere, and we couldn't find sanitation wipes. And the tech that I work with rightfully said, I'm not going to go out to a client unless we can find this. And I'll toot my own horn. I posted in some of the Facebook groups. I have some food service places as clients. So, and they weren't busy. And I called them. I said, wait a minute, you use gloves and sanitation wipes? They're like, yeah. And they said, here, take them. We're not using them. We're not seeing guests now. You want us to add it to our next order? I'm like, heck yeah.
because they're not seeing as many people in there, so they're not wiping down tables and stuff like that. So I've got like 6 cases of gloves and the industrial sanitation wipes. So I'm good till they get the vaccine, I think now.
All right. Okay. All right, Dave. So we are coming up to the top of the hour, and normally this would be the time where I ask for a Florida man versus the world story, but as you were saying, you don't really have anything recent.
The only thing that I could find that was remotely interesting was back in around Valentine's Day, a guy put out an offer for he realized it's expensive to try to find a wife. You have to go out on the dates, and then you go back and forth, and you get to just $25,000. Find me someone. So good old matchmaking. So he made an offer, $25,000, if someone could find him a wife. And then the whole Rona hit, so apparently that offer was discontinued. So I feel bad for the guy. It was a good idea.
Did he get his money back?
Well, he didn't. They didn't find him a wife. I mean, no one found him a wife.
Oh, okay. So we didn't have to pay.
Exactly. But I thought it was a good idea if you could have been dating now and stuff like that.
So I'm sure most of the people have heard this story that there was a crazy paint fight at a Home Depot. That was Florida.
A paint fight?
Yeah. Let me see if I can put this up here.
I mean, paintballs would make sense, but those actual pails of paint. Oh my.
Yep. So they were, and these were employees actually that at a Tampa Home Depot, they got into some sort of argument that spilled outside the store, and they were using paint cans and shovels and all sorts of stuff as weapons. And that happened here. Yep. For Tampa, Florida. And basically, so this is funny the way the story reads. The beefy boy charges at the little dude while slapping at him, but the smaller man holds its own and eventually chucks a can of white paint at him, forcing a retreat. And that's what it is. So that's him with the white paint all over him. But pretty funny there.
I guess it's better that they were in the paint department than the woodworking department. I mean, there's a lot of sharp instruments at a Home Depot, so I guess if you're doing a paint can, that you're a pretty lucky person.
That is true. Yep, lucky they were there. Although the shovel did come in, so they had to go from paint to lawn and garden somehow.
Ooh, yeah, those especially those garden stakes that could get dangerous pretty darn quick.
Yep. So, all right.
And the rake, I mean, that's like funny.
Yeah.
The whole rake, stepping on the rake, hitting yourself.
I'm sure that happens every day somewhere.
In Florida.
In Florida, of course. All right. Well, Dave, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and that is Dr. Dave, Dr. being spelled out, not Dr. the university degree, Dr. Dave in Lawrence, Kansas, doing it since 2003, and I think going stronger than ever if I've got my numbers right. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. And if things happen to where we are up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, will you be attending this year in September?
I want to attend, but I am a cautious person. We'll see how it goes. If they came out, let me put it this way: if they came out with a vaccine tomorrow, I'd do it. Okay.
All right. I know that Jeff and Paco are waiting anxiously to see what happens. I think that they're going to try to do it if everything slows down like it should, and if there is some sort of vaccine or antidote or something, we should be good. So, all right. So, Dave, I will let you get back to work. I know that even though it's Friday, we've still got stuff to do. So, once again, thank you for coming on the show, and we shall see you in either Grand Rapids or maybe sometime back in Florida soon.
There we go. All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, folks, for listening. And be sure to head over to podnuts.com, find the show link for this episode, and you'll have all the information for Dr. Dave in Lawrence, Kansas, his Call Dr. Dave KC website. And, it's a good thing to go there anyway, just to look at the blogs and some of the writings that he does. Dave has some very on-point articles that will help us out in our industry. So that's going to do it, folks, for this episode of Podnuts Pro. Until next time, holla.